This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Monday, September 23rd, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Congressional leaders reach a deal to avoid a government shutdown. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Former President Donald Trump answering questions about another debate and what he'll do if he loses in November. I'm Clayton Neville.
Police in Birmingham, Alabama say a targeted shooting Saturday night left 4 people dead.
Someone was willing to pay money to have that person killed.
I'm Julie Walker.
The FBI boards a ship in Baltimore related to the vessel that brought down a bridge earlier this year. We'll have details.
On Wall Street, stocks start fall trading today after a winning week last week for the major averages. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Imagine students scratching a racial slur into the body of another student. I'm Bob Brown. That story just ahead.
All ahead on America in the Morning. With the deadline to avoid a government shutdown rapidly approaching, congressional leaders over the weekend agreed to a stopgap funding bill that would keep the doors open. John Stolnis has details from Washington.
The temporary funding legislation would keep the government open through the end of December and pass the elections in November. In a statement released by Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson, the government will continue current spending levels for an additional 3 months, with the exception of an additional $231 million for the Secret Service in the wake of 2 failed assassination attempts against Donald Trump. Some additional money to aid in the presidential transition was also included. On Friday, President Biden met with his cabinet and urged congressional leaders to reach a bipartisan compromise.
That gives them more time to deliver on our national defense, veterans, hardworking families, but we've already appropriated. It's important we get it done. And it's the only path forward, but it's by working across the aisle.
The agreement does not include the Republican-backed SAVE Act, legislation that would allow the federal government to enforce laws that prevent non-citizens from voting in elections. Last week, under pressure from former President Trump to force a government shutdown if the SAVE Act was not included in a short-term spending deal, more than a dozen Republicans joined all but 3 Democrats in voting against a 6-month continuing resolution. Republican Congressman Andy Harris, the new chair of the Freedom Caucus, explains to Fox 5 in Washington why Republicans wanted to include the SAVE Act in an unrelated spending bill.
Well, the thing is that that was the last bill that was last major bill that was going to be passed before this election. And if we passed the SAVE Act, it would have gone far to guarantee that illegal aliens don't vote on November 5th. So this was the last train going out of the station. Again, why would anyone reasonable say we're going to shut down the government because we want illegal aliens to vote?
In a letter to his colleagues, Speaker Johnson said this was not the solution they preferred, but that it was the most prudent path forward, and said shutting down the government less than 40 days from a fateful election would, quote, be an act of political malpractice. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries indicated Democrats will go along with the compromise. A vote is expected later this week. John Stolnis, Washington.
As we approach November, former President Trump is answering critical questions about his political future. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Vice President and Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris is inviting former President and the Republican nominee Donald Trump to another debate. It would be on CNN in late October. They debated a few weeks ago, and Trump said he won that debate. Political experts said otherwise, though, and Trump hinted then that he would not do a second debate. He confirmed that over the weekend while rallying on the campaign trail.
Although good entertainment value, a lot of people say, oh, do it, it's great entertainment. I've already done 2. One with Crooked Joe Biden at CNN and the other one with Kamala on ABC. CNN was very fair, I thought. They won't be fair again because they took a lot of abuse from the radical left. ABC was 3-on-1. But I was given credit for having done a very, very good job. I appreciate that. We did a great job. It was 3-on-1.
He told the crowd that the problem with another debate is that it's too late.
Voting has already started. She's had her chance to do it with Fox. You know, Fox invited us on, and I waited, and they turned it down. But now she wants to do a debate right before the election with CNN because she's losing badly. You know, it's like a fighter. She sees the pulse. She sees what's happening. She's losing badly, but it's like a fighter who goes into the ring and gets knocked out, the first thing he says is, I want a rematch. I want a rematch.
New polling released over the weekend shows that Vice President Harris's 2-point lead over Trump is slightly increased. The former president was asked during an interview on Full Measure if he would run again in 2028 if he loses in November.
If you're not successful this time, do you see yourself running again in 4 years?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I think that will be it. I don't see that at all. I think that hopefully we're going to be successful.
According to the latest polling, Trump leads Harris in Arizona and in Georgia. The race is neck and neck in North Carolina, and Harris has leads in other battleground states like Nevada and Pennsylvania. I'm Clayton Neville.
Weekend mass shooting in Birmingham. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning and the nation's first forecast on the first full day of autumn. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
After a few quiet days last week, we are looking at a little more active weather across the country to start this week as a storm system and associated cold front move through the eastern Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley and then continue southwestward into northern Texas. On the northern side of the system, there will be some showers through northern Illinois into northern Ohio, as well as western New York and Pennsylvania. On the southern side of the front, there's going to be scattered thunderstorms through northern Texas into Oklahoma and Arkansas, but there will be some heavier showers and thunderstorms developing through the southern portions of Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana into Ohio, and then moving into West Virginia. A few of these storms could produce gusty winds and local flash flooding, but many of these areas are running dry with a few places in a drought, so any rain will be welcomed. There will also be some scattered afternoon showers and thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast in Texas and Louisiana, as well as South Florida. Additional showers will also form over the Rockies this afternoon from Colorado into Wyoming. Looking out west, it's going to be largely dry with plenty of sunshine for most, and once again, the California valleys will be heating up with highs well into the 90s and a few 100s. Most of the central and northern plains states will be dry with some sunshine, though a shower may pop up in North and South Dakota. It's going to be more comfortable with highs in the 60s and 70s, which will be typical for the first full day of fall. And that cooler weather will extend through the Great Lakes into the Northeast. Raleigh, North Carolina will have a mixture of clouds and sun today with a nice afternoon and a high of 82. Redding, California will have another scorcher of a day with plenty of sunshine and a high of 102. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. More than 100 shots were fired outside of a cigar and hookah lounge in Birmingham, Alabama, leaving 4 people dead and more than a dozen hurt. Correspondent Julie Walker reports the search is on for those responsible, and Mayor Randall Woodfin, speaking on WBMA-TV Birmingham, says gun violence is not a partisan issue and has to be addressed.
Elected officials, locally, statewide, and nationally, have a duty to solve this American crisis, this American epidemic of gun violence. We should not allow people to just ride around with any style type of weapon that doesn't even belong on domestic streets. It should not be allowable, period. I don't care what your politics are.
Police Chief Scott Thurman calls the shooting a hit.
We believe the individual that was targeted is among the deceased. We believe that there was a hit, if you will, on that particular person, as far as, someone was willing to pay money to have that person killed.
He says a woman and 3 men were killed. It took place on the street in the 5 Points South Entertainment District.
The suspects pulled up in a vehicle, exited the vehicle, conducted a shooting, got back into the vehicle, and fled the scene.
Audio courtesy WBMA. Police say around 100 shell casings were found following the shooting and are offering a reward for information.
These mass shootings have more to do with culture than they do criminality. Mayor Randall Woodfin said it best this week. We're seeing far too many arguments being settled by bullets.
I'm Julie Walker.
The FBI went on board a container ship in the port of Baltimore that's managed by the same company as the ship that destroyed the Francis Scott Key Bridge earlier this year. The vessel, called the Saltoro, is managed by the same company that operated the Dolly, which on March 26 crashed into the bridge, causing it to fall into the Patapsco River, killing 6 bridge workers. Federal officials would not say why they were waiting for the ship when it entered the port of Baltimore or why they boarded it. The Department of Justice filed a civil claim for $103 million against Synergy Marine Private Limited, the owner of the Dolly, to recover the money spent responding to the crash and clearing debris so the port could reopen. Investor hang-ups over the Apple iPhone 16. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning continues. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. The Monday Report with CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning for the first day of autumn trading after a mixed Friday for stocks following that rate cut rally last Thursday, and it was a winning week in total.
The S&P 500 has kind of managed to have a couple of sharp pullbacks, but ultimately come out of this period positive over 2 months.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Gold starts trading today after hitting another record high on Friday. It's hit almost 40 record highs this year alone. Copper and silver at their highest prices since July. Brazil coffee farmers dealing with hotter weather and more drought, and that means you'll likely be dealing with higher coffee prices. Brazil is the biggest coffee producer in the world. Similar weather problems in Vietnam, the second largest coffee producer in the world. Apple's new iPhone 16 hit stores on Friday. Some on Wall Street were worried that demand doesn't appear to be very strong for this new model. Apple's CEO spoke with CNBC's Steve Kovac at the New York City flagship store. This was Friday morning when the phones were just released.
I did talk to Tim Cook. He was actually right in front of the Apple store filming a little skit with Jimmy Fallon.
Very exciting.
Better or worse than last year?
Oh, I don't know yet. It's only the first hour, so we'll see.
Pre-orders good?
It's amazing. Everything is enthusiastic.
You know, earlier in the week, we got those signals that maybe demand was less than it was last year. T-Mobile CEO Mike Sievert saying that sales are better than they were last year, at least the pre-order sales. We're going to have to wait through the weekend and, of course, in the coming weeks to get more and more on what the demand looks like.
CNBC's Steve Kovac. Eli Lilly is looking for the records of people who took knockoffs of its weight loss drugs Zepbound and Mounjaro. This would be compounded weight loss drugs.
There's one airline that is certainly on the Taylor Swift bandwagon.
You know, it's because she sells airplane seats. United Airlines says it's definitely getting a financial lift from Taylor Swift and her Eras tour.
Count United Airlines is another big beneficiary of Taylor Swift's globe-hopping music tour. United's chief commercial officer telling a travel industry forum in New York that the airline sees at least a 25% bump in demand on its flights during the singer's weekend concerts, with things reverting to normal afterwards.
CNBC's Becky Quick. On today's watch list, it's the first trading day of fall. We get the manufacturing and services PMI reports, purchasing managers indexes. It's another economic indicator. Bank of America hosts the World Medical Innovation Forum in Boston. Also, the UN General Assembly is getting set to start in New York. World leaders are arriving.
We'll certainly be following that story through the week. There's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, small-town college campus rocked by racism. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back here with America in the Morning. A small Pennsylvania college has been rocked by a racist act, sending shockwaves through the campus. Bob Brown has details, audio courtesy WGAL-TV Lancaster.
I was honestly really shocked. When I heard about it, I couldn't believe it.
Shocking details emerging from a Pennsylvania college involving two members of the Gettysburg College swim team who have now been suspended for allegedly scratching a racial slur into the arm of a team member. The accused students reportedly using a plastic or ceramic instrument. So far, the incident hasn't been officially reported to local police. WGAL-TV with student reaction near the college's campus.
Pretty disgusted. It's just kind of sad. Like, that stuff still happens today. It's 2024, you can't be doing that stuff, and it's just sad to see that people still think that way.
Local police contacting the school, however, the victim has chosen to pursue the incident through the college's internal investigatory process. The school telling the police chief it's encouraging the student to report the incident to authorities.
It's sad to see that people still think that way and act that way, and it's just can't have that.
The college says it can't share any details, citing privacy laws and the student conduct process. I'm Bob Brown.
People from Florida to Louisiana are being told to get ready as an area of low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico is starting to gain strength. The National Hurricane Center reported that the system, which sat near Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, had an 80% chance of development in the next 7 days. Current models are showing that the storm has the potential to become a tropical storm or hurricane and could track toward the western part of Cuba and potentially to the Florida Panhandle as soon as the end of the week. We'll certainly be following that story and many others through the week ahead. America in the Morning for Monday, September 23rd, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
The Biden administration's pushing for a diplomatic solution to Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah group. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Some real concerns surrounding the Secret Service ahead of a hearing this week on Capitol Hill. I'm Clayton Neville.
Vice President Harris will skip out on a presidential campaign tradition. I'm Pamela Burr.
The Arizona Supreme Court's ruled nearly 98,000 people can vote in state and local races. I'm Ben Thomas.
Apple's iPhone 16 launches without intelligence. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Selena Gomez speaks her mind, and the West Wing cast goes to the White House. Back after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning, tracking what could become the next hurricane. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy with the latest.
Well, AccuWeather hurricane experts are watching a developing tropical system in the Western Caribbean that is expected to move into the Gulf of Mexico later this week, making landfall as a hurricane later Thursday or Thursday night along the eastern Gulf Coast. This system is still forming with some changes possible, so stay attuned for the latest information. Otherwise, the main feature across the U.S. is a storm system and associated cold front moving through the eastern Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley and then continuing southwestward into northern Texas. On the northern side of the system, there will be some showers through northern Illinois into northern Ohio, as well as portions of western New York and Pennsylvania. On the southern side, the front will produce some showers, thunderstorms through northern Texas into Oklahoma and Arkansas. But the more concentrated, heavier shower and thunderstorm activity is expected through the southern portions of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, and then moving into West Virginia. A few of these storms could produce gusty winds and local flash flooding, but many of the areas are running dry, and some places are even in a drought, so any rainfall will be welcomed. There will also be a few scattered afternoon thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast in Texas and Louisiana, as well as South Florida. We'll have additional showers forming over the Rockies this afternoon from Colorado into Wyoming. And then looking out west, it's going to be a largely dry day with plenty of sunshine for most. Once again, California Valley regions will be heating up with highs well into the 90s and a few 100s. Most of the central and northern plains states will be dry with some sunshine, though it may see a shower in parts of North and South Dakota. There'll be a comfortable day as well with highs in the 60s and 70s, which is typical for the first full day of fall. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Lebanon remains on edge as hospitals have been pushed to the brink following Israel's pager and walkie-talkie detonations that have injured thousands of members of the terror group Hezbollah. The White House has serious concerns over the escalating tensions in the Middle East. As correspondent Jackie Quinn reports, issues continue to rise between Israel and Hezbollah operating in Lebanon, and National Security spokesman John Kirby, speaking on Fox News Sunday, says the U.S. is doing everything it can to see that an all-out war does not start on the Israeli-Lebanese border.
We don't believe that escalating this conflict militarily is the best way to get those families back to their kibbutzes, back to their homes and to their lives. We still believe that there is time and space for diplomacy to work here. Now, again, we're not Pollyannish. We're watching the tensions escalate here over the last few days. We understand that it's not moving in the best direction, but that doesn't mean we think that engaging in another full front, another all-out war in the north is the best thing for Israel.
The Biden administration's pushing for a diplomatic solution to end the attacks between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah group.
All I can tell you is we're still putting our shoulder to the wheel to get the hostages home and get a ceasefire in place, as daunting as that is today. And we are still involved in intensive diplomacy to try to prevent a second front from opening up on that border with Lebanon.
President Biden, returning to the White House, is asked if he's concerned about the escalating strikes between Israel and Hezbollah.
Yes, I am, but we're going to do everything we can to keep a wider war from breaking out.
The Pentagon says Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke with Israel's defense minister, stressing the need for a diplomatic solution. Hezbollah rockets have reached civilian targets in northern Israel, where tens of thousands of residents had to flee to air raid shelters. In Beirut, dozens have died from Israeli strikes. Israel's President Isaac Herzog.
We do not want to get into a war with Lebanon, but Lebanon has been hijacked by a terror organization.
A Hezbollah legislator says this war has entered a new phase. I'm Jackie Quinn.
The bipartisan task force investigating the Pennsylvania assassination attempt against former President Trump is set to hold its first hearing this week. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The hearing's expected to hone in on the Secret Service and how they relied on state and local police during the Butler, Pennsylvania rally in July. One person was killed, 2 others were hurt, and President Trump grazed on the ear with a bullet. Lawmakers took to the Sunday talk shows yesterday about some of their concerns and priorities headed into the hearing. Democratic Congressman Jason Crow was on ABC's This Week and said that resources are extremely thin for the Secret Service right now.
But additional funding and resources is not going to solve the problem between now and Election Day. So we need to have a discussion about what needs to happen in the next 45 days, actually sooner than that, to make sure this does not happen again.
Republican Congressman Mike Kelly told ABC there are too many unanswered questions.
The preparation for that event leaves a lot in our minds as to how in the world the most elite group, the people we rely on to protect people, was so casual about that. And that's the way it seems right now. And hopefully, it doesn't get worse. But I got to tell you, to me, it is very troubling.
Democratic Representative Madeline Dean joined Fox News Sunday.
The Secret Service must accept full responsibility, and they have. But to use the word complacent in protecting former presidents or presidential candidates or vice presidential candidates, there can be no complacency.
And Republican Congressman Michael Waltz told Fox that the FBI should also be held accountable.
I would love to see Director Wray and Secretary Mayorkas have a press conference like the Secret Service just did. We still know virtually nothing about Crooks, the shooter in Butler, about his encrypted accounts, how he learned to build those IEDs.
The congressional hearing's set for Thursday on Capitol Hill. I'm Clayton Neville.
People living on the streets in some of California's largest cities has become a topic, including in the presidential election. Correspondent Julie Walker reports more shelter beds and a crackdown on tents on city sidewalks means fewer homeless encampments in San Francisco.
This is a terrific solution. As you can see, this is a very clean place. It's a very stable place. It seems very safe. It's not a nuisance to the neighborhood by any means. And so, yeah, I'm a huge advocate for this sort of housing.
San Francisco's sidewalks were once notorious for sprawling tents belonging to homeless people, but are now largely clear. There are still thousands of homeless people living in RVs and cars and in expanded shelter beds. But Mayor London Breed's office says the nearly 3,000 people counted sleeping outdoors in tents is the lowest figure in a decade, and even fewer people are likely living on sidewalks after Breed ramped up enforcement of anti-camping laws following a U.S. Supreme Court decision this summer.
I felt blessed. I mean, I could have went on the street, and it's cold out there, it's dirty. Here, they feed us, as you can see, it's clean, and I have the opportunity here to get back on my feet a lot quicker than I would have outside. I know people, once you get out there, it's almost like you're stuck.
Formerly homeless, David Labigan moved into city supportive housing.
The area is safe, the building is safe, staff is cool, and of course things could be a whole lot better, but from where I came from, I got no complaints.
I'm Julie Walker.
Among the stories we're covering next, VP Harris, a dinner no-show, plus Arizona's election turmoil. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. Vice President Kamala Harris has decided to skip the historic Al Smith dinner in New York. Pamela Furr has more on the history of this event and what Harris is doing instead.
Now in its 79th year, the Al Smith Dinner is a fundraiser for Catholic charities and hosted by the Archbishop of New York. And every presidential election year, both the Republican and Democrat candidates come together to roast each other or give humorous speeches. The tradition began when Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy spoke at the event in 1960.
I had announced earlier this year that if successful, I would not consider campaign contributions as a substitute for experience in appointing ambassadors. Ever since I made that statement, I haven't received one single cent from my father.
In 2020, Donald Trump and President Biden both addressed a virtual version of the celebration because of the COVID pandemic, and both set the jokes aside. This year, Vice President Harris has opted to skip the white tie affair scheduled for October 17th, deciding instead to campaign in an unspecified battleground state. The Archdiocese spokesman told the New York Post they're disappointed she's made this decision and are hoping she reconsiders. I'm Pamela Furr.
A judge's ruling in Arizona will impact nearly 100,000 people who were hoping to cast a vote in the November election. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
The Arizona Supreme Court's ruled nearly 98,000 people whose citizenship documents had not been confirmed can vote in state and local races. The decision comes after officials uncovered a database error that for 2 decades mistakenly designated the voters as having access to the full ballot. The swing state is unique in that it distinguishes between voters who can participate only in federal elections and those who can vote in state and local elections as well as federal. The latter classification requires proof of citizenship be submitted. But the High Court ruled county officials had no authority to change the voter's status because those voters registered long ago and had attested under penalty of law that they are citizens. The justices also said the voters weren't at fault for the database error. I'm Ben Thomas.
The phrase paper or plastic will become a thing of the past at grocery store checkout lines in California under a new law signed by Governor Gavin Newsom that bans all plastic shopping bags. California had already banned thin plastic shopping bags at supermarkets and other stores, but shoppers could purchase bags made with a thicker plastic. However, the new measure, approved by state legislators last month, bans all plastic shopping bags starting in 2026. Shoppers who don't bring their own bags will instead be offered a paper bag. 12 states, including California, Oregon, Colorado, and New York, have some type of statewide plastic bag ban in place. America in the Morning continues. Apple has officially released the iPhone 16, but not with one of its key upgrades, Apple Intelligence. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech News.
The Apple iPhone 16 officially went on sale Friday, but without one of its much ballyhooed features, Apple Intelligence. Apple CEO Tim Cook said it would be the first iPhone built for Apple Intelligence, but they failed to deliver. Apple first announced their Apple Intelligence Suite twice, first at the Worldwide Developer Conference in June, and then again in September at the iPhone 16 launch. Apple did say in a statement earlier this year that they would be partnering with OpenAI for the initial release of the iPhone 16. Apple has fallen behind a bit this year, with both Google and Microsoft releasing major versions of their AI and other Android phone providers, including advanced AI tools with their initial release. Apple is betting heavily on third-party developers to integrate AI tools into their apps by releasing a set of developer beta tools to make it easier to integrate AI into their software. For more AI news, follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Baseball, NFL, and more. It's Robert Workman in with Monday Sports.
NFL Week 3 started with two matchups of undefeated teams, and both were won by the home squad. The Vikings trampled the Texans 34-7, 4 TD passes for Sam Darnold.
Yeah, the fans' reaction meant everything to me. My entire time here in Minnesota has been amazing with the fans.
Meanwhile, the Steelers rallied past the Chargers 20-10. Justin Fields ran for one score and threw for another. Seahawks screamed past the Dolphins 24-3. Seattle is 3-0, as are the Chiefs, who fought off the Falcons last night. Saquon Barkley had a pair of fourth-quarter touchdown runs as the Eagles came back to beat the Saints, knocking New Orleans from the ranks of the unbeaten. The previously winless Broncos handed the Buccaneers their first loss in Tampa. Other first-time winners, the Panthers, Giants, Colts, Ravens, and Rams. Elsewhere, the Lions held off the Cardinals, and the Packers topped the Titans. Baseball heading into the final week of the regular season. Aaron Judge belted his 55th on Sunday as the Yankees topped the A's 7-4. They're now one win away from clinching the AL East. Tigers tipped the Orioles 4-3. Kerry Carpenter homered twice.
Makes it a lot better is when you can do it for the team, and our pitchers come through, and it's just a collective effort, but it's fun to help out the team like that.
Detroit moves into a wild card tie with Kansas City as the Royals lose their 7th straight, 2-0 to the Giants, a 3-hitter for Blake Snell and friends. Red Sox swept a pair from the Twins, dropping Minnesota out of a wild card slot with a week to go. And the Angels came back twice to down the Astros. Houston's magic number in the West is 2. National League, the Dodgers got back-to-back jacks from Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts in the bottom of the 9th to edge the Rockies. Mets edged the Phillies last night, so the East and the West are still not clinched. Braves stay alive in the NL wildcard with a win over the Marlins. Brewers rallied from down 8-0 to get past the Diamondbacks. Pirates blanked the Reds behind the 3-hit pitching of Paul Skeens and the Skeeters. After the game, Cincinnati sacked manager David Bell after nearly 6 years, and the Padres scored 3 in the 8th to pop the White Sox, Chicago's 120th loss that ties the modern record set by the 1962 Mets. That's Monday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. Don't call me victim when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. In theaters, Beetlejuice has scared off its rivals for a 3rd week in a row. Entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta has details.
You're a figment of my imagination.
Really? Was this a figment of your imagination?
The Beetlejuice sequel is #1 with moviegoers this weekend, bringing in another $26 million domestically, according to studio estimates. It just barely beats out the Optimus Prime origin story Transformers 1, which comes in second with $25 million.
Thank God there's a doctor in the house. I'm not a doctor. What?
But didn't you say you were a doctor?
Did I? Look at their faces. Of course I'm a bloody doctor.
The horror film Speak No Evil takes 3rd place. Never Let Go is #4, and Deadpool and Wolverine is in 5th. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
Actress and entrepreneur Selena Gomez is speaking out against critics who call her a victim for sharing her personal struggles. Kevin Carr has that story.
The Only Murders in the Building actress spoke to Vanity Fair earlier this month and revealed that she is unable to safely carry children due to a variety of medical issues, including the medicine she takes for bipolar disorder. However, after being criticized online for painting herself as the victim, she spoke out at a Women in Film dinner last week, heard on this video posted on social media by Selena Gomez News.
There is power in being vulnerable and telling people when you need help and when you want help. That is not shameful. So yeah, I shared that I can't carry a child. Yeah, I shared I have bipolar.
Gomez has faced an array of medical problems over the years, including being diagnosed with the autoimmune disease lupus in 2013 and receiving a kidney transplant in 2017. She attended the dinner with her sister Gracie and said her goal was to advocate for women, which is why she shares these imperfect details of her life.
If you want to be an advocate for women, then that's why I share. That's why I like to be honest, is because everybody's going through something. So screw anyone who tells you you're a victim, you're a survivor.
Gomez started her career at the Disney Channel on The Wizards of Waverly Place and now stars on the Emmy-nominated series Only Murders in the Building. She recently became one of the youngest billionaires according to the Bloomberg Billionaire Index, resulting from her cosmetic line, Rare Beauty. I'm Kevin Carr.
Reality met television at the White House for a celebration of TV's West Wing. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
It's the 25th anniversary of the hit TV show The West Wing, and First Lady Jill Biden invited cast members to a party in the Rose Garden. The show has been a favorite of many who now work in Washington.
Anytime we begin to slip into cynicism or apathy, we just have to remember Jed Bartlett's White House.
President Biden was away meeting with the Prime Minister of Australia ahead of a weekend summit in Delaware, but actor Martin Sheen was in the House and gave an address in the style of his character, President Jed Bartlett.
We are rightly called to find something in our lives worth fighting for.
The show's creator, Aaron Sorkin, penned a column for the New York Times calling for Biden to withdraw that ran just hours before the president's announcement.
West Wing moments do happen, and Dr. Biden, we saw proof of that on the morning of July 21st.
Sorkin also noted some absences in the crowd.
Brad Whitford, Rob Lowe, and Allison Janney are all on set today, and we're unable to make it. The rest of us are apparently unemployed.
Not yet.
Jennifer King, Washington.
That's our show for today, Monday, September 23rd, 2024. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.